So, I don't think it's a controversial thing at all to say that we live in some uncertain times, right? Maybe you're on the side of people that's cautiously optimistic about the future. Maybe you're on the side of people that airs a little more pessimistic about the future. Either way, I don't think there's a very large group of people that are like, yeah, I know exactly what's going to happen, and I'm feeling this way about it. I think everybody's like it's a little crazy, especially Gen Z coming up. If you're part of Gen Z, which I assume many of you are, coming up, it's like all of us are sort of getting to the age now where it's like entering the world a little bit more, and it's not the best time, guys. I'll be honest. It's a little bit like it's hard to be at the time in your life where maybe, if you're watching this and you're in late high school, you're being asked, who do you want to take out $300,000 from and pay back for the rest of your life? And that's the decision you're making. And that's a tough decision to make right now. Or maybe you just went, maybe you're at the end of college, as many of my friends are right now, and you're on the other side of that where you took out that loan already, and now you're like, man, did I do the right thing? Because the world looks wildly different than it did 4 years ago. This is the situation we're in, right? Whether it's because of AI, politics, pick your prolonged emergency. I mean, it could be anything. It's a tough situation, right? And I think because of that, there is sort of, I don't know, I think this is one of those times on this show where I'm going to have to sort of like bash together two terms to describe what I'm talking about. Because it's not an existentialism, it's not a nihilism, but it's something that resembles those two things and takes the form of a decision paralysis, I'm sure we've all been there, right? You're sitting and you're kind of stuck in your head a little bit, maybe you're too much in your mind, and you're thinking like, if I do this thing, it could be good, but it could end bad that way. If I do that thing though, it'll end bad that way. If I do that thing, it could end good, but I'm not really gonna be happy. And like, sort of this weird place where you get to, where it just feels like, oh, yeah, that's right, there's no answer. Like, I think we've all been there once or twice. I mean, if you're like me and you grew up indecisive, you were there like when you were in like a toy aisle once. Like, you get there all the time. But I think nowadays with how crazy the world is, it's even more serious, and people are getting there in real ways. And I think that this sort of lack of clarity mixed with like the existentialism that comes from that leads to I think it leads to one of two ways, right? And I don't know, maybe even both at the same time. One, a nihilism, and I think this is like, I want to do a whole thing on this one day. I don't know if it's going to be in Paint Talk even, maybe a video, because I think I would need to think out my thoughts a little bit more. That was the stupidest sentence of all time, think out my thoughts. What am I saying? But I'd want to rough out these thoughts a little bit more. I don't know if it'd be a Paint Talk, maybe it'd be something stemming off of one, but I do think like sort of nihilism is the philosophical language of this generation, especially not even Gen Z, Gen Alpha too. Any generation raised on the internet, it feels like that's like the prevailing ideology almost. And nihilism is not even an ideology, but like it feels as though it's become one, because I feel like almost everything sort of stems back to that. So I think a nihilism does come out of this sort of place, right? I think it'd be inauthentic to say there's not a sort of nihilism that rises out of this. And that's understandable. Like, I don't know, I think some people I've seen people make videos like sort of being like, oh, never let yourself fall to nihilism. Or like, it's like the greatest failure you can make is when you fall prey to nihilism. And it's like, listen, no, you should not be sitting there. Like if you are depressed or thinking in these nihilistic ways, that's not good. Like, I'm not going to say it's a good thing, but it's also a reality. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that we all get to at one point or another. And I think it's a normal, I don't know, is nihilism an emotion you can feel? Because if it is, I think it's a normal emotion to feel at this point in time. But the larger thing that comes out of that to me is sort of decision paralysis, right? Like, if we're to do like a Venn diagram, is it Venn diagram if there's three circles? But either way, like we have nihilism here, existentialism here, decision paralysis here, and then in the middle is sort of the emotion I'm talking about that I feel that I have felt over the last year or so, and I'm sure many others have too. And I think that this decision paralysis is, I've talked about how all three of these emotions have a hint of honesty to them and how I'm not in the business of shaming anybody for feeling them. I think the decision paralysis that comes off of them is perhaps the most honest reaction of all to have at this point, right? Because how else are you supposed to feel? You know, how are you supposed to put one foot in front of the other when you don't know what the ground is going to look like tomorrow? Like, that's kind of where we're at, right? And, you know, you don't know what the destination is. I know I've talked to, so I have a lot of friends varying in ages, right? And talking to my friends who are on the older side, maybe in their like mid-30s, right? All of them, it's so interesting how they see, or rather saw the future in comparison to how people my age, younger and a little bit older than me, see the future or can imagine it, right? Like, people who are mid-30s to 40s, when I talk to them, it's like, as a kid, I just knew, like, I'd go to Wall Street, I'd do this, I'd do that, I'd do that, I'd do X, Y, Z, and then I'd end up here, right? And when I ask people who are, like, even upper Gen Z, like, you know, mid to late 20s, it's like, no, I never thought of that. Like, I never even had a notion that I'd be able to decide what it looked like in the future for me. And I think that is exactly what I'm talking about here. How do you make decisions about your future and about your life when everything feels so, one, uncertain, two, out of your control? You know, and I don't know, I've never, you know, I'm not saying this show is like some philosophical beacon at all, but I do try and be honest on this show. I do try to say, like, you know, I try to keep it positive, but I'm never going to sit here and be like, everything's great all the time. I think it's worth giving credence to these emotions, these more negative emotions. But I think that giving credence to them would be a mistake without also asking the question of, like, so what do you do, right? And this is, I think, a big dilemma I've been having this whole year. Like, I don't know, it just feels like this whole year, as I've gotten honestly, more stable in my life, I've entered a more stable phase of my life this last year, I feel like I've asked this question so much more of, like, wait, so, like, what do you do? Like, how do you handle this? Because just ignoring these emotions, just ignoring the clear reality in front of you, definitely doesn't feel like the right answer. So, I think, to me, the one is an acceptance. Like, these are real emotions. This is a real place we're in right now where, like, we don't know what tomorrow's gonna look like, and that's a little scary. There's also some cool potential in that, you know? Some people are gonna hedge their bets. I mean, some people watching this are gonna be hedging their bets on some things, you know, whether that's, like, maybe they start doing a certain type of art, maybe they start streaming on a new platform, maybe, I don't know what shape this bet will take, but some of them are gonna be really correct, you know? I mean, think of more correct than you could ever imagine. I mean, think of, like, streamers, right? I know some streamers started streaming back in, like, 2009 or whatever, just as, like, a hobby. They could never have predicted they'd be a millionaire today because of just how well those streaming platforms ended up doing, you know? And there are, you know, at least half the people watching this, I can't help but imagine, are on that same trajectory and don't even know it. And I think that's awesome. There's also, I think, the acceptance that shit's not going to end well for some people. Like, the future's uncertain, yes, and that means it could be really good, it could be really bad, it could be in the middle, you know? So I think understanding that's the first thing. And then I think the biggest thing to me is putting one foot in front of the other, and whatever you're doing, whatever, you know, shape your doing takes, and you know, the acceptance comes in the part that you're gonna have to, like, take a little guesswork of what you want to do, and that's the unfortunate reality, I think. Whatever shape it takes, just strive to be better tomorrow than you were today. And the same thing the next day, and the same thing the next day. Just incremental improvement, I genuinely believe, is the only way forward. You know, I don't like giving prescriptive advice because I think it's so, you know, who am I talking to? I feel like advice of any kind is usually pretty useless, especially when there's a guy in a liminal tan space talking to you who doesn't know you, who doesn't know your situation, and I can't speak to any of this stuff. So ignore the advice if you don't want to, right? But when I do try and give advice, I try and make it as general as possible. And something that is super general, that I don't think can fail anybody, genuinely. I don't think that there's a way that this can fail anybody when it comes to accomplishing things, is just trying to be better tomorrow than you were today. And the same thing the next day, and the same thing the next day. Just going constantly upwards, just striving up, you know? I think that, listen, I don't even mean this in, like, a super motivational, inspirational sense. I just mean this in a very direct sense of, like, even, you know, if it doesn't go that well, you'll still have gotten somewhere better than if you didn't do that. I think that is the biggest thing I can say. Like, I think that's the only way forward right now. And as things become more certain, make your plans more certain, you know? Just, I think giving into that nihilism is understandable, but the wrong thing to be doing right now, when I do think there's a great amount of potential right in front of us. And I think that those who take it are the ones who are going to start moving right away, even if they don't know exactly what's ahead, and just focus on being 1% better tomorrow, 1% better the next day. And it's corny, annoying advice, but hey, it's the only thing I see that could work right now. This is the painting. I don't know if I like this or not. You know, I gotta sleep on this. I liked how it started. I want to just go really fluid. This is technically a form, but not really a form. And like, I like that kind of vibe to it, but I don't know if I like the painting. You know, like, I don't know if I like the final result of it. I had fun making it though, so yeah. Go check us out on the TikTok and the Instagram, and until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This has been Paint Talk episode 294, every morning, painting and talking with you all.